All right, hey everyone, March 14th, the year 2017. This is Schuyler Barbeau, currently being held for over a year before even having trial in FDC SeaTac. His previous lawyers have been absolutely horrific, public pretenders, and they've agreed to some motion in limines that banned the mention of the Constitution. So Schuyler Barbeau is working to defend himself. I think it's called pro se. All right, we're working our way through these articles on the Outpost of Freedom website by Gary Hunt. The article that we'll be reading in this video is called The Demonization of Schuyler Barbeau. So let's get started. It was dated December the 23rd, 2015, written by Gary Hunt, Outpost of Freedom. Schuyler Pyatte Barbeau is accused of failing to pay a tax and register a firearm with the federal government, and that required that the tax be paid. However, the firearm was not a firearm, but separate parts, when the government received it, as explained in the arrest of Schuyler Barbeau. There were 2 barrels, a receiver, optical devices, and other items. In a case that was delivered to a confidential human source, CHS identified as Oliver Murphy. Now, it is necessary to understand that all the objects that were in that case were legally purchased. There is no crime in the possession of the objects. However, it is rather ironic that if the shorter barrel, 10.5 inches long, is affixed to a rifle receiver, it becomes illegal, presumably because the rifle with a barrel less than 16 inches, the criminal element, can be easily concealed because of the short length. The 10.5-inch barrel reduces muzzle velocity and accuracy when fired, so it is really less of a rifle. On the other hand, if you were to affix the 10.5-inch barrel to a pistol or a handgun receiver, it is legal. In contrast, the rifle receiver, which by description must have a stock, while the pistol receiver does not. This makes the pistol with the 10.5-inch barrel considerably shorter and more concealable than the rifle version. So it begs the question, is there any sense at all in this law that taxes the one rifle and not the other pistol? So now we have illustrated the extent of the charges against Barbeau. Clearly this is about the demonization by the federal government in an attempt to influence public opinion against Barbeau, because the law does not allow fishing expeditions to try to find a crime, nor did the framers intend for the government to have such power. The demonization begins with the information provided by the paid CHS, confidential human informant. This is detailed in the search warrant affidavit or fishing license. There are unsubstantiated claims that Barbeau claimed to have stolen blasting caps and detonation cord from his Army National Guard unit, though there is no indication that the well inventoried and secured items were ever stolen, nor were they found during the warranted search. To understand the security involved in cataloging these items on a military installation, here is what Marine Pyatte, a disabled 15-year veteran that worked in supply, says about the control of such inventory. I must add information for those not privy to our supply handling of certain equipment. Soldiers, we all know ammo, blasting caps, detonation cord are not just laying around in our armories. We have to go to ASP, Ammo Supply Point, to receive, and only those authorized with specific ammo handlers certification can sign out for such items for scheduled training. Transportation to and from armory then to training site is all predetermined. Much coordination is involved, and I personally have overseen such coordination as I have in my logistics positions, coordinated from pre-planning to execution to return. Such items are handled under guard and with great caution. Storage points at armories just prior to live training execution would be under weapons vault controlled by unit supply sergeants. Security alarm systems and a vault room inside larger weapons vault room is the proper authorized site until final movement to a designated training site. If items such as that went missing, they would not only shut down and lock down all the surrounding area or entire base, soldiers would be confined to Unit AO or training site until all missing items are recovered and all clear by base commanders have been issued. This would not go unnoticed. SSG Mo. However, when the FBI visited the National Guard unit, the only thing they had to say was that Barbeau had served 8 honorable years in both the Marines and Army National Guard. There was no evidence to support the loss of the named items. This, however, did not bar the FBI from invading the Ankh Ranch, some 280 miles from where Barbeau was arrested. The raid was a quasi-military operation conducted by 25 goons, each using the same type of firearm that Barbeau is accused of possessing, and numerous other federal agents, as shown in the video footage of the raid in domestic terrorism. The raid was based on the very vague charges in violation of Title 28 Criminal U.S. Code, charges of possession of stolen federal property and possession of a machine gun. Neither of these charges have any substance, as explained above, except for the word of the paid CHS informant. So again, it begs the question, were the allegations made by the paid informant simply an imaginary or contrived scenario to please those who were going to cut him a check for $3,500, or just bravado talk between friends? Later, News Channel King 5 on December the 17th did a field interview with Alan Ankh, where the damages caused by the December 6th raid on the Ankh Ranch can be seen. Let me just bring that up real quick.
An Eastern Washington couple is speaking out today about a Stanwood man suspected of domestic terrorism. Agents raided their property and...
Okay, I'll upload that later. Where damages by the December 6th raid on the Ankh Ranch can be seen. The segment also shows a portion of a document that has been recently unsealed by the Federal Eastern District Court in Spokane, though not tied to the arrest and the current charges against Schuyler Barbeau. The referred to document, the affidavit supporting the search warrant, let me bring that up. Well, it's taken a long time. I'll have to come back to that. That was executed on the ranch of December the 6th, brings forward the additional unsubstantiated charges of violation of the criminal code. It is important to note that there is no proof of stolen property. It is reasonable to question how it can be justification for such an overwhelming show of force when nearly platoon-sized army of federal agents stormed the ranch, knowing that, with the exception of Carrie Ankh, who was alone at home, the other 2 inhabitants of the property were in federal hands 280 miles away. Oh, this is 14. This appears to be who is this signed by? Oh, Michael Baldino. Michael Baldino gave a sworn affidavit, I guess, for the search warrant. Incredible. All right, anyway, the raid based upon such meager justification surely cost the taxpayers many thousands of dollars, which makes us ponder whether the intent of the law is suggested a tax or revenue law, or is it an expansion of federal authority outside of the constraints of the Constitution in trying to circumvent the Second Amendment. We are not yet finished with this story. There is little doubt that public disclosure of the raid did bring to the forefront the obscure possibility of criminal acts. That, of course, would produce a high degree of concern and perhaps taint the mind of those who might sit in judgment of Schuyler Barbeau in a jury trial. Rest assured, there is no intention on the part of the government or media of letting it at that. On December the 11th, 2015, King 5 News aired a segment. Let's bring that up.
We are looking very intently at a...
Okay, we'll upload that too. Let me save that. Which they described as a rare insight, especially in light of the terrorist attack in San Bernardino last week and other terrorist attacks across the country, which raises a serious concern regarding Islamic terrorism. The recently unspeakable phrase, which surely got the attention of the general public, most likely blinded or deafened to any of the above.
I found something on the web for the recently unspeakable phrase. Take a look.
You see that? My phone, I didn't even touch my phone and it started recording me. There's no doubt that they're monitoring my phone. My phone's sitting behind me and I haven't even touched it and it just starts picking up my voice. Insane. That recently unspeakable phrase, which surely got the attention of the general public, most likely blinded or deafened to any of the above facts of the case to date. As stated, the FBI is asking the public's help in preventing the next act of terrorism. In that broadcast, the FBI begins talking about behavior that preceded the event. They then suggest that certain individuals in the state may be in communication with ISIS, suggesting that Washington might see a brutal terrorist attack in the near future. They are monitoring the behavior of those they have identified. Chris Inglis, King 5, suggests that Barbeau could have been one of those cases the FBI had been speaking about. So now they have classed this honorably discharged Marine soldier, a defender of the United States Constitution, in the same category as Islamic terrorist. That's a very common thing. If you look at the Chad Joy whistleblower report, with the when they railroaded Senator Ted Stevens in Alaska with the Polar Pen Team and the corrupt Department of Justice, one of the things the Chad Joy whistleblower report said was that the FBI has unethical and illegal relationships with the media so they can demonize their targets. They did that to Senator Ted Stevens. They've done it to Schaefer Cox, and it appears they've done it to Schuyler Barbeau. They use the same pattern of activity over and over again. All right, we're going to continue to remember Schuyler Barbeau. We're going to investigate his case even more, and I'll continue to read these articles as they become available. God bless every one of you. Bye-bye.